Yeah.
All right. Well, this is episode 3 of Jenny's Rules. Today, I've got Nick Pace from the Bean team with KW Realty. We have one more coming. He's on the way. He's motorbiking here. Yep. So, Nick, welcome. How we kind of started into this, we talked a little bit before we really got started of like why we're doing this and just getting to know more realtors and more information about home buying process. First, I want to start with how long have you been in the industry?
Yeah, great question. That's usually one of the first questions I get. But yeah, before even that, I said this to you and I just want to say it again. I appreciate that you're doing this and kind of packaging all of this material into a really fun media source. And
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
I'm awkward as heck with it, but it's all right.
Well, we're riding it. So
yeah,
I am actually coming up on 2 years in the business, and to extend that answer, I am having a great time. It's been major up and down, as real estate always is, from what I hear. But my experience confirms that for sure. And I came in at a pretty wild time. I got started in August of 21. And if you're familiar with real estate at that time, it was super hot. Everything was flying. And so I came in, I was like, yeah, this is great. I can just, stuff is selling left and right. This is easy. And I've had pretty good success at that time. And then reality kind of checked in.
Stuff took a dive.
Yeah. And checked my ego a little bit. And that's been a great experience to kind of be gut punched, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I just recognize that I respond really well to that kind of thing. I like those challenges. And so I like to think that I've done pretty well with those two very different scenarios.
Balancing that, because I started when it was in the downtime, and this is kind of my like normal. And so for you to be able to adjust to both, like when things go back to, somewhat normalcy and bouncing back, it's like, then it's going to be like a lot for me. So I feel like balancing both of those worlds is a super high accomplishment.
Yeah.
And sticking with it. Now, you've always been on the Bean team, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Started. And how many of you are in the team? What kind of team aspect are you a part of, your role-wise?
Sure. So let's see. How many of us are there now? I'll just name you all.
Yeah, name them off.
Give you a shout out. Yeah. There's Jess and Kyle, kind of the ringleaders, the Beans. Mm-hmm. And then there's me and Jim, our surprise guest, who you'll see
soon.
Yep. And then there's Erica, our amazing transaction coordinator, and Sydney, who is another relatively newer agent who's also finding her groove and starting to crush it. And so as far as the agents go, that makes 5 of us. Right? Me, Jim, Sid, Kyle, and Jess. And so for a total of 6.
Nice. And do you deal with sellers, buyers, both? What's your kind of role for the team?
So dealing with both. I work with buyers and sellers. I started off with the humble beginnings of just working with buyers.
Okay.
And, we kind of just roll with the punches as a team. And so we've adapted. And so now we're all working with both.
Our special guest has arrived. How was your bike trip?
Special.
That's good. Welcome. This is Jim Silvestri.
Hey.
He's also on the Bean team. You had a truck in here.
Oh, yeah.
A truck.
Rode past it twice.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
It's kind of hidden.
Yeah. I thought I knew where it was, but this is.
And Darrow was like, I thought I saw him riding the bike by.
Yeah. Get some extra miles on that e-bike.
Just because you've done such a great job getting here.
There you go.
You get a little bit of a treat.
All right.
Is that all right?
I like beer.
Good. I knew you're an IPA man.
Yep.
So, Jim, we were just pretty much doing an introductory,
Sure.
and talking about how Nick got started, roles in the team. Yeah. I mean, you'll hear everybody's voice, especially your own.
That's scary.
I know. It's always good. So, scoot in just a little bit.
Okay.
There you go. Got to get you all situated.
We want to hear you.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I've known you for many years,
Mhm.
being a teacher at Lewiston High School.
Mhm.
I'm curious of how you got started, or what made you decide to jump in the real estate world.
Well, when I was younger, I worked at a restaurant for years, and the guy at the restaurant decided that he wanted to start flipping, no, not even really flipping houses, just buying older houses, fixing them up, and then renting them because he was looking to invest in real estate. So I did that with him for years. He'd buy a house and we'd go in and we'd strip it out and we'd do everything to it and fix it all up either as a rental or to sell. And so I did that, and then I got away from it. And then Paul Toucher, well, it was Jerry Toucher, Paul Toucher, he was in the real estate business. And one day I was thinking of what I'm going to do when I retire, because I didn't want to just quit, retire teaching, that is. And he said, well, you've done enough things in your life that you could probably succeed in anything, and one of them is real estate. And he said, you should give it a try. So I did.
There you are.
Yeah.
What year did you retire from teaching?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think it was right before the new high school. So 2020?
Right before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right at COVID.
Oh, at COVID.
Yeah. The last semester was all COVID.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then did you start right away with real estate stuff? Or
Yeah.
did you?
Yeah. I started taking classes before I even retired.
Okay. Have you always been on the Bean team?
That's where I decided to hang my license.
Perch yourself.
Yeah,
Love
well,
it.
I went around to all the different real estate agencies and talked to them, and this seemed to be the best fit.
Good.
Well, you had a brief period where you were.
No, I was
individual.
independent at first. Yeah, I wasn't with.
Were you with KW or?
Yeah, with
okay.
KW.
Okay.
I decided to go with KW,
Sure.
and then they asked me to become a member of the
team.
team. Yeah. it was
Very cool.
Lindsay and Emily.
Yeah.
That was the first member.
I know.
Outside of
I love that.
transaction, and
Yeah.
and they've regretted it ever
I'm
since.
sure they don't.
Jim's the most tenured Bean team member at this
Yeah.
point.
I know
That's
you
right.
are. Gosh, that's funny.
That's kind of sad, isn't it? Yeah.
The role that you play, do you also work with buyers and sellers, or
Now I do.
Now
yeah.
you do.
I heard Nick talking when he came in.
Yeah.
We've expanded.
So now you kind of both are doing both.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got my first listing
That's
Thursday.
so exciting.
And I got my first closed sale on
Yay.
Friday.
I know. I
So-
saw the pictures.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
awesome.
listing is pending after like a day.
How I
A
was
day,
gonna say,
yeah.
So
Let's go into the market then, current stuff. Personally, do you guys feel like, industry-wise as well, if it's a seller's market, buyer's market,
That's a good question.
currently, for, our valley's always kind of behind the times
Mhm.
and sorts. So I'm just curious what you guys have a take on the current market.
yeah.
If it's more of a...
Nick's probably a better read on this than I am.
I'll take a stab at it, but short answer is I would say that it's still a seller's market. In real estate, everything is so relative, though. It might seem like it's a buyer's market because it was extremely a seller's market the past year or 2 years. And so as things kind of slowly start to soften, it relatively seems like it could be a buyer's market. But in the big picture, we still have a very low inventory, still pretty high demand, and that just makes a great recipe for sellers right now. And so definitely still seller's market in my opinion.
Yeah,
I would agree.
you would agree.
Definitely. Yeah.
Inventory. Everyone's always asking, like, when's the right time to buy?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no really great answer to give anybody. I get it on the lending side all the time. For that, like, oh my gosh, I cannot read what I wrote down. Such a turd.
That's why we use
I
computers.
know.
Our line.
Oh yeah. This is kind of where I was going. Should people wait? Is that something that you feel like the time to buy? Should people wait? Is that something that you give your own 2 cents on?
That's a great question. We get, having come from, both of us come from just buyers only. We hear that a lot. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. But, there's people that have waited for 6 months.
Anything.
No, I mean,
anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it goes down, the interest rate goes down, like today it went down a little bit. So
did. I was working with someone and they were like, well, I would like my payment to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, even with a 4% interest rate, we can't even get close to the payment that you want. And so it's hard to wrap people's brains around what's currently going on in this world. And the inventory part, do you feel like a lot of people are coming from out of town?
Well,
buyers?
Yeah.
It was, I would say, a little more heavy on the out of town buyers, but I would say that has dwindled quite a bit. There's still some, and I think there's always going to be some to some degree, but I wouldn't say it's any number out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say it's a lot of local buyers.
Yeah.
Right
all the clients I have that are active.
Local.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great.
I mean, things happen. I mean, you got to, promotion or family changes or whatever. That's never going to be anything different.
And that segues into, what the question you just asked about if it's a good time to wait. I mean, there's just no right answer for that. If you're so using the market conditions as your main determinant on whether or not to buy, you would be more of an investor, I would think. I mean, that the investors are looking more at market conditions, and even then, I mean, some investors have a lot of available cash that they need to put into something, and so the market conditions even only go so far in that respect. So if you're not an investor and you're thinking of, should I wait or should I not wait, I would just challenge you and say that's maybe not the right question to ask. It's more of what is my timeline? Why do I want to buy? Because that's the biggest thing to consider is your motivation. And so it's all just really relative, again, to the person. You can navigate any market condition with the right help, the right guidance, the right strategy and approach and preparation. So it's, yeah.
I like how you flip that, though. That's good. It's a different perspective.
Yeah,
on things.
maybe.
Well, it's like when I moved to the Valley, back to the Valley in 1980, interest rates were 23%.
Yeah.
And I had to be here.
Yeah.
I had to be here by July 3rd. And so it was just a matter of finding something that would work. I couldn't wait for prices to stabilize.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to rent because I've rented before. I mean, that's just like, well, if you're only going to be there for a little while, it's okay. But the market conditions haven't changed. If people are waiting for prices to come down, they haven't come down.
No.
And I don't think they will. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, I mean, if they do, they're likely gonna shoot right back up anyway. I mean, what's
brief?
As soon as it gets some interest, I mean, prices go down, more people are buying.
Yeah.
Law of supply and demand.
I have just a personal question on my own thought. With all the people that you've worked with, buyers, sellers, what percentage of them are first-time home buyers? Is it pretty low, or are they mostly people that have bought or doing more investment properties?
It's a great question. If I were to account for like the people that I have pretty active right now, I'd say I'd say like 40% right now that I'm working with are
Or
first-time
home
buyers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that if you haven't bought or have been interested in a property in 3 years or more, then you're considered a first-time home buyer again.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the time, everyone's like, well, I did buy a house, but numbers-wise, it's that 3-year mark. And so you'll fall back into that.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that.
Yeah. We try to, because FHA is one that we use a lot, which has that 3.5% down.
Mm-hmm.
And you will offer that to people that meet that guideline because they fall under that category.
So after 3 years, they
you can't. Yeah, you can't have been interested or looked into or bought any property in 3 years.
Oh.
Can't even look at them.
You could look, but
How they know?
Numbers wise, I think when pull your credit, it's pulling credit. It's like putting some time into wanting to look at what you can financially change,
Sure.
for buying a house.
Or it's your cookies.
Yeah. Or your tracker on your phone or whatever.
They're always listening.
That's a different podcast.
That vaccination thing. Yeah.
They're
just looking
always
back.
listening. Oh, that's funny. Jim, you personally, how many houses have you had in your lifetime?
3.
3. And do you, like you said, when you first bought, let's talk about fixer-uppers. What is something that you guys do, like, that have something that you were like, no, like that bothers me as a realtor when you're showing houses and you're like, that I know that's going to have to be worked on. Like if you do like
That's
a CMA, like I'm always curious there's always something that bothers someone, differently. So what's something that you hone in on more, that maybe educating your buyers on making sure that that's fixed or making sure that that's good?
Well, one of the things that I notice the most is do-it-yourself projects that didn't quite work out. Yeah. And that needs some attention. It was fine. And I am victim of that, or I admit that I have done those things. Back in my early years, I did a tile shower that was just like, yeah,
just thrown up.
The plumber's going, oh my God, who did this?
What about you, Nick?
I think I guess to distinguish between if I'm working with a seller and they're wanting to sell their house and obviously get top dollar, it's like the biggest thing is the mess. I think a lot of times people don't realize that there is a mess, and making sure that the house is decluttered and clean, and just mostly like cosmetic things, because I think that your houses just show so much better, and you can really see the glory of a house when it's cared for, putting some love into it on the cleaning side. But if I'm working with a buyer, especially in this market, I'm looking for the big things in the house. I'm looking for age of the roof, the condition, the furnace, AC unit, foundation, obviously, like the skeleton and organs of it is my priority, because the cosmetic stuff, one, you can DIY your way into something pretty beautiful if you're talented that way, and
cheaper. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So
well, I agree. The first thing I do as a buyer's agent is I get there before the sellers do, and I look at the foundation, I look at the roof, the condition of the outside. If there's rot or if there's trees overhanging or whatever it happens to be. And that's because those are the big things.
Oh yeah.
Condition of the mechanicals, like the furnace and stuff like that. Those every other thing you could probably overcome.
Yeah.
Sheetrock and mud, and paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basic.
And it depends on your buyer too. If they're a handy person, maybe you can look past some of those things.
CMAs, do you guys both do those?
I have done one.
You've done one?
Well, actually, I've done 3 and only got one to list.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So you did it well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Nick? Yeah.
Yeah. I've done a few now, but
Why don't you go ahead, either one of you, kind of go into a CMA? What do you kind of prepare people for? Like if you're going in and selling their house, what are the steps that you take for the CMA?
Yeah. Well, first thing, if someone comes and says they want to sell their house, I want to get eyes on it. So, we obviously have our access to public records and things like that to get the basic specs of the house. But it's different when you step inside of a place or you step on the property and really get a feel for the place. So that's my first step. And then I'm going back and looking at the public records, all my basic specs after I have the information from the seller about, what kind of upgrades they've done or, getting my eyes on the real condition of it. And then, the key for a CMA is, and that's obviously the purpose of a CMA is to price it. And that is most important, especially in a changing market. In this market, you want to make sure that it's priced ahead of the market because I don't want to say it's coming down because it is, but very slowly. So you want to make sure that the numbers that you're getting from, the comparable sales to the house that you're working with are close enough to it after the adjustments that you're going to make for it. And then when you go to put it on the market, or at least play through that scenario, what I want to do is I'm looking at what the competition is at the time that we want to go on the market, because these are going to be the houses that you are going to directly be competing with. And so it's kind of a three-pronged approach, I guess. You get like the calculated numbers based off of the comparables, and then based off of me seeing the place, there's kind of a gut feeling involved that I'm learning. And that's really important because the numbers can be skewed. They're a little bit behind. So you want to take those into account while also taking into account when you're going to enter the market. And the only way you do that is by being very active in the market, knowing how things are selling on the ground, because those numbers aren't available yet.
Right.
Well, and to that point, Nick and I, having been buyer's agents mostly, we're inside so many houses and we see so many different things. So now that the market has changed, you have to be a lot more careful on your CMAs. And not that you didn't before, but I mean, it was not as quick.
Yeah.
So we're able to, like you say, the gut feeling is a lot better. Well, not a lot better.
Just more
this is going out in public, so I gotta be careful. But yeah. I mean, you're a lot more cognizant.
You're more confident.
Well, cognizant of what's selling, because what your buyers are looking for,
right,
and what they're going to make offers on. So,
do you feel negotiations are way more like common now in the current market?
In what respect, negotiations?
Lowering the price or being able to have sellers lower it enough to maybe catch some eyes.
That's what all the buyers want to hear right now.
Yeah.
Can we negotiate a lower price?
Yeah.
But they're not going. I mean,
Budget
like
much.
90, what was the last TMO? Like 93% of asking, 97%?
Yeah, I think it's closer to 97%.
97%
houses
of
are selling
asking.
for.
You said TMO?
Well, we have a weekly report of all the markets in our valley. We have the Lewiston, Clarkson, the Soton, and then the Greater Valley.
Oh, wow.
So we get a weekly report of all of the houses, what they sold for, how long they were on the market, what the asking price was, what they sold for, the percentages, and all those things.
And happy to share that report too if anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody
If
wants
anybody
to see
asks, can anybody ask?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What does TMO stand for?
That's a good question.
Total market overview.
There you
Ooh,
go.
that sounds
I'll
good.
go with that one.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I like that. I didn't know you can just ask. You just say, I'm curious to know.
Well, our brokerage out of Spokane compiles numbers for us.
Oh, that's great.
And that's one of the cool, just to give a shout out to Keller Williams as a brokerage. I mean, that's one of the things that they pride themselves on, is that they spend a lot of the dollars that come in that they make and they pour it back into the agents. And so that's just one of the ways that they are supporting agents so that we can be informed, and so that trickles down to benefit our clients because we're updated and benefited.
It's so invaluable. I mean, I have a weekly meeting with some guys over beer, and the first thing they ask is all that information, and I just have it right there for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What other kind of benefits do you feel like buyers, sellers don't really know or have a knowledge of, that they have these free resources? Is there anything else that KW provides, or you personally for your clients? Do you do anything like that comparison? Like if you've looked at maybe some past people that have wanted to sell but never did, do you continue to reach out to them and say, well, this is what your house could be for now since we've had some time? Do you kind of relook at numbers for people?
I do, and I know Jim does, and I think that is a lot of the one of the biggest benefits that you get from just knowing an agent. I know I'm an open book when it comes to any information that I'm accustomed to, and when it comes to making a huge decision, whether you're selling your house or buying your house, you want as much information as possible. You don't want to go into it blind, and so I think you want to be mining as much people and agents as possible. And to be honest, it's the one that is the most informed and is the most on top of the market that I think you'd want to trust.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big. I always often say it. I mean, I'm helping people try to find their house or sell their house or whatever. But I mean, it's a huge investment. And it's an emotional process. So you do want to have somebody that's well informed. And I think we have access. Well, I'm sure other agents do too. But I mean, I feel very confident in what I portray as what the market is like based on the information I have. Because it's all really
currently.
detailed. Yeah, currently.
Yeah.
Because it changes week to week.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But I would say also that a lot of most of the benefits, at least on the buying side, come from lending options. So maybe you could speak on that.
Listen, especially for first-time homebuyers, it is required to do a first-time homebuyers class.
And people don't know this stuff.
They
so
don't.
Please
and then they go into that and they're like, what? And it's this, but it's to prepare you. And even times where I'll talk to people and I go, now let's do the final initial closing documents. Let's sign them. And I'll quiz them. What kind of loan do you have? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, I can think back. We bought our first home in 2017. I thought I had no idea which one our loan was. I had no recollection, but then going back and remembering, yes, we did have to do a first time homebuyers class, and some of the stuff that we do, we make sure that you have a solid pre-approval before. I know people tend to look ahead of the game. Do you let them still look, or are you very much like let's have you go talk to a lender first, or do you allow people to kind of peruse?
For me, it's a case-by-case basis. The general rule of thumb is that absolutely you should get pre-approved first for a couple of reasons. The main one is, at least right now, our market's moving so fast. I would hate to go show you a house that you absolutely love and then come to find out you have to take another week to get pre-approved after the fact, and that house is gone. And now you've started your home search with that taste in your mouth, and it's
disappointed buyers. I mean, I've had one recently. They thought they were pre-approved, but then they were not pre-approved for what they wanted, and it ended up badly for them. And now they have a sour taste, and
they have, like I was saying this in another podcast. It feels like someone always has to blame something for what happened, and a lot of the times it does fall on us. And with the company that I work for, we kind of go more in depth because there's a pre-qualification and there's a pre-approval. Right. And what we want is more of the pre-approval. Like, let's get as many documentations that we can get in. Let's do this solid. Even if you're looking at a house, we'll even add on the property taxes into that payment of what the goal, so that everyone's getting at least some sort of a solid number.
And we even did a buyer's class at the office about a year ago.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
And we had people that we were working with that were looking for homes, but they were really be qualified.
Yes, those are great.
Because they'll tell you that they are.
Yes.
Sometimes, and they're not.
They're not. Which, I mean, again, I'm very new into this industry. Do you feel as if you're turning clients to lenders, or are lenders referring clients to you? Have you noticed a one-directional, like are clients mainly getting all their info from realtors? Or
I'd say it's like half and half for me, at least. Half of my buyers come to me after already having explored a lender.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other half come to me like, hey, I'd like to buy a house and I have no idea where to start.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point,
I kind of veer it.
Yeah. And I like to give a few options. I know lenders don't like to hear that, but I really think it's, a good thing to explore a couple, just because everybody has different situations. And so that's why for me, I like to really understand what that person's situation is. And then maybe I know a lender that has a strength in this area that they could really benefit from. And so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with, I don't feel like they should not shop lenders.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a realtor. If you don't fit well, and there's always someone else. And numbers, we don't just come up with, like, they're like numbers that and some people have some negotiations and some people have like a little more flex, but all in all, I'm seeing it's more of who do you click with, or who do you get that connection with better.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, it's all about relationships. And the more you know about the client, the more you know about the person, you might have something that would, a product that would help them better. So, it's about the same thing.
Certain lenders, I've noticed, like, are really good at the VA loan and know like the ins and outs of it. There's ones that we can't do, or like the manufactured homes. That's a whole different ballgame. So different lenders have different strengths. For realtors, I mean, especially in this industry in town, do you feel like certain realtors have certain strengths?
I would say so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're at the end of the day, we're people, and so we all have our major differences, and obviously there's the differences in personality, but the short answer, I would say we're definitely, we all have strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When it's evident, and you look at the listings and the sales.
Have you been here? Have you lived here your whole life, Jim? Or are you from?
I have lived here technically my whole life, but I've lived in a lot of different places.
Okay, so that's also good to know that you a little bit more about the outskirts of town. And
sure.
And Nick, you're originally from?
Not here.
Yeah, I remember, but I don't remember where.
Yeah, I was raised in a small rural place in southern New Jersey, about an hour outside of Philadelphia.
Did you have an accent?
They say when I get around my friends and family, it comes out.
Yeah, that's cute.
People tell me
we all have accents.
I wish mine was like southern or UK.
Well, go to the South and they say you have an accent.
I know,
right?
That's so wild.
My grandkids all grew up in the South.
Oh, funny.
There you go. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, y'all come back now.
That's funny. Let's talk about neighborhoods. I always am curious if you guys personally have favorite neighborhoods or favorite areas that you've enjoyed yourself or like to show people.
Well, Nick probably doesn't have too many he's enjoying himself. He lives out on Conway Creek, which is great.
Yeah, you have a
my
drive.
favorite neighborhood is out of the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
No neighbors.
Yeah, I grew up on Normal Hill, and I live in the Heights now. But I mean, lived in Los Angeles, San Diego, Eugene, Oregon, Alaska.
Oh man.
What would you say your preference is for?
I always seem to end up back here, and this is going to be something Nick knows about, but it's because I was born in the 50s here. My parents came from California, and I was the first one who was born here. And at that time, Hanford was releasing all that, nuclear waste into the air. So I'm a downwinder. So I have to come back
Wow.
here and live because I can't survive without all that radiation.
I'm acclimated here.
Yeah.
Wild.
Your fate was sealed early on.
Yeah.
That's wild.
There's worse fates though.
Yeah. Though it's a great place to live. I mean, you drive around the Pacific Northwest, and it's just like a special place in the world. There's so much. I mean, especially if you appreciate natural beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gosh, I was in Utah, all the national parks that are down there. I was in Yosemite, which didn't work out, but because of all the floods and stuff. Mountain Rainier, the Cascades. I mean, it's just hard to beat this area.
Yeah.
It really is.
Everything's so close to reach is in turn
Mm-hmm.
like of the mountain, the river,
I've been
everything.
Texas and East Coast, and I've been all over, and there's just no place like this.
That's awesome.
So if you're considering moving to the area, take it from Jim.
Yeah.
Save yourself the
This is
time.
it.
Just come right here.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is it. Do you guys try to, with the area, go to events, yearly things that you like, or like, oh, I never missed this event and I never missed this? Is there anything that hits you close to home?
I don't, my partner Abby and I mean, we're young, we don't have any kids, and we live out of town. So really any event that comes along, we're pretty interested in. I mean, we like to dance and have fun, and so anything like that, we're all about. Farmers markets. We love the Moscow market.
Mhm.
Oh, I
Yeah.
do like the
Me
Moscow
too.
one. It's so big.
Yeah.
We have a little one.
That's actually getting bigger.
It is way
Yeah.
bigger. I drove by. It's right by Groundwork Brewery,
Yep.
right across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Yep.
are partaking into that. But this last weekend was June picnic in Craigmont. So
Mhm.
like it's kind of like their fair. Cottonwood has one, and there's border days and there's all sorts of weekends.
What do they call that? Yes.
Craigmont's June picnic.
But it used to be something else.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
I've always known it to be June picnic. I know Buggy Whip is in Cottonwood. There's
Right.
like all those, and so
That sounds
I'm
fun.
from Cottonwood originally. So knowing those,
That explains a lot.
does it? Oh no, that's the nose. No,
Do tell.
knowing those outskirts of town events and
Mhm.
things and little pieces to know that you can introduce to someone, be like, oh, we have this, but look at everything that we have around.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
like Nick. I like to go to everything. I mean, my kids are all grown, and I'm not married, so I can go anywhere and do anything, and I do.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about last night. I drove 2 hours to Lewiston, Oregon, to have barbecue.
No way.
Oh,
Just
it
to
was
have barbecue.
amazing.
Oh, yeah.
If you saw the picture of the platter, it
Oh,
was
Oh,
gosh.
I'd
worth
have
it.
to look.
Yeah.
it's
Was it good?
Oh my God!
Fun.
It'd be worth a 3-hour drive, I'd say.
Well, it's 4 hours,
Oh.
but total. But still, I mean, it's a beautiful drive.
When you guys are out of town and maybe talking to some locals of a different establishment, do you tend to talk about real estate in your out of work talk?
We're supposed to. I mean, unless we're tired
so
of
much
it.
food.
Yeah.
I mean,
There-
it's more, it's like taking your work home, but
Yeah.
I was in California last week. My granddaughter graduated from Cal Poly, and I was handing out business cards everywhere.
that's
and
so fun.
I took a trip last year, or I think it was last year, and my grandson was living down there, and I took him a pickup. I hauled it down on a trailer, and I stopped at every real estate sign and put my card on those
Nice.
things. So yeah, I'm always, and
It
I'm
never hurts.
I'm meeting people. Most of my clients have come from meetings in like Groundworks or
Yes.
Riverport or Tomato Brothers or something like that. And you just sit down and people are, I mean, you're always working. It's just like,
Yeah.
well, kids don't understand it. But it's just like the Yellow Pages.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Talking to two that are maybe after the Yellow
No,
Pages.
during
Yeah.
my time, but yeah, a little. I remember my dad, I think, tried to rip one in half.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
back in the day.
Brave man.
You got to soak it first.
You gotta give a
No,
little.
I'm serious.
You do.
And then you let it dry, and then you can rip it. It's a trick.
It's a little
handicap.
It's a trick.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys want to jump into the market with what you've currently got listing wise? Anything you want to talk about for your current listings? I mean, yours is pending, so
Yeah, I was like listed it Thursday, Friday it was pending.
wow,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah, I mean, listing
What
real
was the
estate's
price range, if you don't mind me?
it's over 400.
Over 400.
But under 5. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great house.
yeah, it was really
Listen, I feel like anything under 3 is
yeah.
It's gone
Oh,
before you see it.
yeah.
This one had a nice shop, and
Oh,
the
good.
couple that bought it a couple of years ago, he got transferred. Well, he works in the West Side now, but it was just he didn't want to sell the house really because he loved it, and I think it kind of showed because when he bought it from a person who lived there since it was built. So
He
I
put
mean,
in the love and the
yeah,
work, and
a big shop, and
shops are plus.
yeah.
Everyone
Out here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's just part of it. What about your listings that you've got?
Let's see. I've had one that I listed a few weeks ago, but actually like right before this, it's looking like we're going to get that under contract. So I don't want to put it out there.
No, that's
yeah.
great though.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got a property that is, more investor friendly, needs some TLC, but there's some room for some equity there on, downtown. So yeah. And inventory is so slim, like we were saying. So all I would say is if you are considering and tossing around the idea of moving, you still have a lot of room to get a good price for your property right now. So
Yeah, especially if you purchased, I guess before there was all that inflation on prices. But now, even now, I mean, within a few years, you're still going to get value. So,
And interest rates are said to at least stay to a more solid and not such a, no more rising. That's the hope.
yeah.
And trying to educate people that it's to date the rate, marry the house kind of concept.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we just had a presentation at the office and showed the price or the rate for the
Mhm.
last, what was it, 10, 15
Oh yeah. I posted one too on
Yeah. I mean,
it went back I think 20 years.
yeah.
And
So,
it's crazy to look at it that way. And a lot of like the younger people, that the ones that are just like thinking about buying their first house, and they're like, well, this is crazy. But then if you look back on how crazier it could have been,
yeah,
it's
23%.
Yeah.
I had to have the seller carry part of the contract because the bank wouldn't even loan that much.
Jeez.
I mean, because it was so high.
Yeah. That's wild. Do you or have you dealt with anyone that's done an assumable loan? Not yet.
I was pretty close on one.
Okay.
It didn't work out, but I think right now, if you can find that opportunity, that
And a lot of people
could be killer.
don't know that you need to use where they currently have their loan through or went through. They have to use that same person to assume that loan. And some people don't. They want to shop around, maybe even, and look at other stuff. And it's like, no, you have to use that.
Yeah, and
that
from what I
road.
understand, and maybe you could clarify, if there is a remainder between the purchase price and what that loan is for. Some of those lenders will give you a second loan to cover that, right?
Yes.
So you don't have to make it up in cash.
No,
that's what a lot of people think.
Yes.
But it will be at current interest rates.
Current interest rates. And then of course, like you can mesh the two, after a while. HELOCs are really big too for people doing any big project. Like my husband and I had actually refinanced when things were way down, like in the 2s, 3s.
Good for you. Never see that again.
Never, I know. And we were going to build a shop, but then all the building supplies and all that skyrocketed. And so then it's like, what we pulled that money out, it can't even do half of the shop now. It was difficult. So do you notice people doing those big projects to give themselves some value? Or is that really kind of dwindled on like the shop aspect or a second bathroom? Are they more just, let's see what we can get, what we currently have?
Well, there again, I don't have many listings, but I would say that as far as a buyer's agent, people aren't doing much.
It's kind of slowed.
Yeah, I think from what you can tell walking into a few places, you can kind of see that sellers are like, oh, the market's dropping out. Let's just throw some lipstick on this.
Just get it.
And get it on the market.
Yeah.
And they're selling because there's a scarcity of houses, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think, what was the last months of inventory? It went
was like
up.
2.3.
Yeah, so it's gone up. I mean, we were down below a month for a while.
Yeah, and for people who don't know what months of inventory is, it's basically our metric that we use to determine what the inventory level is. And so they say that 6 months of inventory, above 6 months of inventory, is considered a buyer's market, and below 6 is a seller's market. And so Jim just said we're 2.3, 2.4. So to answer your question that we started with, definitely seller's market. But before, we were in the ones.
Yeah.
Even
I mean,
worse than that. Wow.
Oh gosh, it was a week to have a house go on the market Thursday, and by Monday, you had like 10 offers.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, and then that's the negotiation. We
were at buyer J's at that time, so it was like,
it's like the wild, wild west.
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
Yeah.
Do you, contact wise, do you guys have cell phones? Is that the best way to get you guys contacted with? Is your cell phone, email?
Yeah, well,
all the above.
All the above. Is there something that you try to? I'm always, after 6, I try to not be on Facebook and on my phone. It's kind of hard, but then I get people on Facebook Messenger to asking me questions. So is there a time that you feel in your personal life that you turn off and like it's late, or are you guys at work anytime, any day?
No, don't say that.
No. I don't.
No. For me, that's something that I'm working pretty hard on is setting those clear lines, and so I like to start shutting it down by 7 o'clock, and it's a case by case basis. But I would say if someone wants to reach out, and I'll get back to you like within 24 hours. So don't let that be a deterrent.
Right. Yeah. I know it's hard. I have 2 kids and I have a small house, so if I make a peep, they know I'm awake.
Yeah.
So I try to make it so it's a fine line, but yet like I can text real quick, but phone you would say is probably your more direct contact.
Yeah, probably, like you said, though, it's almost more text too.
Or tech.
I'm a call guy though. Like I really prefer
phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to talk to somebody because text is so.
A lot can get misconstrued, and I like to hear your
Being
voice.
a teacher, I mean, it's like, well, the context is really.
You probably
hard.
get into punctuation.
No, I don't. But I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So if you can get a conversation with somebody, because it's all about relationships, just like yours too.
Yes.
I mean, you need to know about the person, and I understand people are kind of, what do I say? reluctant to respond to that kind of stuff. And I understand why, because you get inundated with all this other crap.
Yeah.
Technology, and I feel like has really taken a, over. A lot of the time we'll do a lot of our e-sign, on e-sign, or it's not hardly in person. DocuSign. Do you feel like tech advertisement for the Bean team? I know. Do you guys work separately in terms of advertisement? Do you work together as the team? How does that kind of work for?
Oh no, we work together, and I think that's actually one of the things that separate us. I mean, we work really well together, and all of our marketing is, it's going to be the Bean team, and that's because when you do work with one of us, you work with all of us, and I think that's you get a group of 6 people behind you when it comes to buying and selling your house, and that's just it's a major added value. Nothing gets missed because you have all those different pairs of eyes on something, and as we're always collaborating within the office, bouncing ideas off of each other, different scenarios, because if one of us doesn't know something, somebody does. And if we all don't, then we figure it out.
Talking about it today, I mean, like what's going on with here, so how you handle it, let's talk about it. So we all learned. And it's, I tell that to people. When you give me as a buyer's agent, you're getting an entire team that's going to take care of your transaction.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, especially with first-time buyers. I mean, it's a
big deal.
Oh gosh, people don't understand how, the difference between getting an offer accepted and closing. So much can happen. God,
but in a timely manner, huh?
Yeah, it's scary.
Oh yeah.
One of the things though I'll say about Bay Equity, where Jenny's with, is they just get it done. Like there's a lot of things, like Jim says, that can go wrong, and they are, from my experience, I've done a few deals with you guys, and it's one, they can get it done really quick because I think you guys do everything in house for the most part, which is a nice added value, and
it's very great.
Obviously, the most fun thing is that when it comes time to close, they really celebrate you.
Oh yeah,
and
we do love our closings.
Nobody does that. So
no, I know, it's so fun.
Yeah,
and it's more of that like kind of little added shock value because we play their favorite song and they walk out and it's like, what's going on? And then my very first like real close, I will never forget it. It was pouring rain, and her song was the Here Comes the Sun, doo-doo-doo. And she was crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So those make that so memorable, and
that's what it's all about.
And it's like you're touching a part of their heart, and you're dealing with something that's the biggest money transaction they're ever gonna have, and it's a stressful deal. So to make it a little more fun, we really try.
Yeah, no, it pays off.
Thank you. And like you said, in-house, we have our in-house processor, and Amanda, she came from the escrow world. So having her knowledge, it's like you said, it's a team thing. I have all those resources available if I have any questions or if I need something double checked, and I just know we really try to make it so there's no bumps in the road. There's always that,
which there will be.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
But you guys have great communication too.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm like over communicating because I'm like,
I don't think you
can. I told this to you before, and they're like, yeah, no, it's okay, we know.
Yeah, I don't think you can over communicate.
Oh, good.
I agree. I'd rather over communicate than under communicate.
That is there? I don't know, Jim. I don't know if we've talked about that, but do you feel like in the lending aspect there's kind of a lag or something that's kind of seems like it's always causing a little bit of
well, I would say probably communication is the biggest thing. I've done some deals, like the biggest problem in the deal was the communication with the lender. And usually it's because it's out of town lender, or somebody has a friend that they're working with in Arizona or something that they know or something like that. And it just doesn't go right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard some horror stories of like people in other time zones and like what should have been done in time is like it was their time but not our,
Well, for example, this last I sold this property and then I listed this property, and they said that that their experience working with the team was the best thing they ever had, except for the lender.
Oh, dang.
And it was a guy from out of town that
Yeah.
he was from Alaska and he was working with them. And it was just almost quashed the deal from buying a house.
Yeah.
So,
Just that's something so small that
yeah.
could be a huge effect. That really, I'm such a people person
Yep.
and people pleaser that it's just eats away at me. So
It's just all communication.
I know one of the things, that I hope all lenders can hear that I really like, at least, is I really like when lenders send those milestone updates, because there
Yeah.
are certain big rocks that come in a transaction on the lending side.
yeah.
So I noticed that some lenders send out, and they might be automatic alerts, and that's fine. But as soon as a major milestones hit, it's like I'm aware, and then I know where I'm at in the transaction. And because your buyers, especially if they don't know the buying process that well, they want to know
Correct.
what's going on, and I
Correct.
need to know what's going on. And then there's So
Yeah.
when I already know that automatically, it's just like
It's double.
yeah.
With us, we have to have permission to ask them, clients, is it okay if I talk to your lender about this? There's some things that we can't fully disclose, like, their credit
Yeah.
stuff. And so there's stuff that I like to make sure like you're comfortable that I can relay this, or I'll ask them like, hey, do you feel comfortable relaying this to your realtor, or would you like me to? And it's more like everyone's on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just makes things so much smoother.
So smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially as buyer's agents, communication with lenders is like,
That's huge. That is huge.
Yeah.
Sellers, do you... I question this now. Do you educate them on anything besides like just the house prep and all that? But what if they're trying to buy their same like a house and it's contingent on their house selling to buy a new one? Do you?
Oh, now you're getting complicated.
Yeah.
I know those ones. That just
Which
seems
happens.
like it,
it
it's
gets
more.
really
It's
complicated.
more happening. Do you give them that clear timeline? Like this is where we're at. Do you suggest locking in their rate with them? In that way.
My approach in general, whether I'm working with a buyer or a seller, is I'm big on the education aspect. Obviously, if you don't care, then I'll take care of it for you. But most people do want to know, and I think before we start any of it, I think it's super important, and I always try to emphasize explaining the whole overview of the whole process. Even if it goes way over your head, I'm going to tell it to you, and you're going to be somewhat familiar with it when the time comes. And so when it comes to sellers, there is a lot that sellers need to know as far as the process. And like Jim said, the fact that we've been on the buyer side heavy in the beginning, we have a lot of experience from that perspective. And so I think that translates well working with sellers, because we know everything that buyers are going to potentially throw at you.
Yeah.
And so we can get you prepared for that, so there's no question marks or curveballs, at least as little as possible. And I think that goes a long way for the experience of the process, which I think is key.
Yeah. Like when we were just starting, it was not unusual for us to put in 10, 11 offers for a buyer. So, I mean, you deal with so many different scenarios.
Yeah.
So on the seller side, I mean, that's a benefit. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
It's communicating with other realtors about negotiations and selling, or not selling, but closing costs, and like, how do you approach that? Do you tend to let them make the first move if you're in the sellers? Does that make if that makes sense?
Yeah,
Well,
Am I asking that correctly?
Well, I think I know what you mean.
whatever you mean. No, I don't. You go. You go
Well,
ahead.
like if as a seller, you have to wait for an offer.
Mhm.
So in the offer, they would say if they want closing costs, and then that's a negotiation right there. So
Mhm.
you have to wait.
Maybe it's with the buyer. Maybe it's the buyer's side then. Like, do you feel like when you put in the offer and then like counter offers, do you guys do, it's always a case by case scenario to see, but do you try to see like the line, or do you guys try to like, well, what if we did this?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
if I understand what you're saying.
I think I'm just saying it all
That's okay.
Up, but
What I think is key in this industry is relationships, and that's with your clients and also with other agents. So, and that's, I really love that aspect of it. I mean, the reason we're all agents is likely because we love people. And so agents are people too.
Mhm.
And I think establishing good relationships with other agents in your market is one of the best things that you can do, because it's going to make the transaction as smooth as possible, which benefits you and your client. And so it's in everybody's best interest to work together. And maybe to directly answer your question, if I'm writing an offer on a property, I want to know as much information about that property as possible. And that includes what the other interest from other buyers is on that property. If I'm going to be competing on something, how can I write an offer on something when I know nothing about it? And, every agent's different as far as, obviously when we're working with a seller, we don't want to disclose information that's going to compromise our seller's best interest. And so, there's a line, but there's also information that you can give that really helps the buyer's agent bring their best offer, which is going to help your seller getting the best offer.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think I just worded that a little. A little bit.
Yeah, I agree with Nick. I mean, yeah, the relationship with the selling agent and the buying agent is important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the direction I wanted to go, was the more of working with other agents. And
yeah,
And we're all
crucial.
looking to get the best deal we can. But the
Mhm.
best deal is always where both people are happy.
yes.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
Win-win. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that we on the Bean team really emphasize as part of our culture is we really only deal in win-wins. I mean,
Yeah.
that's obviously doesn't always go that way, but our efforts are going to make it to where seller's happy and the buyer's happy.
Yeah.
And obviously us. So
Yeah.
I just think it's the best way to do business.
Right.
And sometimes, we give on our side just to make it happen.
Yeah.
Too. So yeah.
I mean, have you guys had to do any personal work, like to help for like an inspector and go and paint, or have you done some of that for your clients?
No, never. Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, there was a VA loan that
VA. Those appraisals are different.
exactly. Yeah.
They're different.
And it was paint, and so I was on the buying side and there was a selling agent. We both went out there and we spent the afternoon
Oh, that's fantastic.
painting and chipping off so that it could pass appraisal.
Good.
I've done that too, with even in our office. The selling agent was in our office, on our team,
Uh-huh.
and I went out there and helped him.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I've taken up quite a bit of your time today.
I could keep going all
Yeah.
night.
Listen, I
This
could
is
too.
actually
I wish
Gosh,
Daryl's
it could
going to
be-
have to, keep the lights running all night for us. But
Yeah.
thank you guys so much. Jim Silvestri, Nick Pace from the Bean team. Oh, Clink, you have no beer.
Oh,
you
I'll
doing your
change
can?
that in a
He's got it in
second.
can. My can's almost empty. His is.
Clink.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you
This
guys.
is great.
Thank you.
More to come.